discussion. Because it was
hey, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of Artist Alchemy. This is the show where we like to talk about how artists specifically transform kind of everyday things into something extraordinary. And that's what we love about the artist we get to talk to each week. So our special guest this week is artist, master ceramicist, founder of Vet Art, Mr. Steve Dilley. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, David. Thanks for having me. I'm just really pleased to be here.
Oh, it's great to see you. Let's just jump in here a little bit and ask the obvious. How are you doing? How's your life and your work during the time of COVID?
Well, it's a challenge. I find myself leaving home, going to work, coming back, going back and forth. And so in a lot of ways, we end up, it's just one long ribbon in between the two. I'm fortunate. I have good work. I'm fortunate that I have a place that I can do my work, and I believe that it makes a positive impact on people's lives. So, all said and done, everyone's healthy. Bills are getting paid. We're doing good.
Fantastic. So you're a Southern California guy like me. You're down in Encinitas and have the facility in Vista we'll talk more about here shortly. And you're a lot closer to the ocean than I was growing up in the San Fernando Valley. So, but do you surf? Do you actually surf?
Not very good, but I enjoy the ocean. And anytime that I can get in that water, we do 2, 3, 4 times a week, even if it's just a dip before dinner for 5 or 10 minutes.
Do you really? Oh, good for you. So you take advantage of the lifestyle. You're there. Why not, right?
Take advantage of lifestyle. I also like to I go on long walks for my mental health in the mornings, and that gives me on the ocean. So we get to listen to that ocean every day, and that's an important component.
Well, I didn't know how far do you actually live from the ocean?
We can see it, but it's about a 15-minute walk from my house. Maybe 20 minutes, and you're in the sand.
You're there. I mean, gee, that's fantastic.
You can walk and get there.
Well, good for you for, like I said, living the lifestyle and enjoying that great treasure that you have.
It is a treasure, Dave.
So when did you decide you wanted to be an artist or be involved in the arts? Were you artsy as a child? Where did it all sort of begin?
Well, the smart aleck comment was I needed a job. But deeper than that, in high school, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out who or what they're going to be. And I was doing art classes, and
you were into it in high school.
Yeah. And then I was fortunate enough that I had some great art teachers, and being the youngest of 5 kids, all my brothers and sisters had done art in school. And I always thought, well, I kind of like this art thing. I think I want to do some more of it. So, but I think that's just part of a longer story of other people that helped me find my way, reintroduced me, supported me. All those things happen along the way. And if you're open, you listen to them.
Good.
And those things pay off. And, David, when I graduated from high school, I had one goal, and that was to go to a party with my girlfriend at the beach because she had rented a house at the beach over in Newport Beach. And a good friend of mine.
I'm going to fault you for that.
Well, and a good friend of mine goes, hey, we were working at a place, bussing tables, and he goes, hey, Chaffee College has a summer ceramics class. And I'm like, he's like, come on, take it with me. And I said, no. And he said, come on, take it with me. I'll drive. And I said, no. He said, I'll drive and pay for gas. And I said, no.
Oh.
He's got a party at the beach. No way am I going to go there. And he goes, okay, I'll drive. I'll pay for gas, and I'll smoke you out every day. And I looked at him and I said, okay.
Oh, that's good.
But the important thing that's who I was at 17. The important thing that happened is as a 17-year-old, that summer they had opened a position as a lab tech, and I interviewed for it. So I was 18 years old, and I had the keys to the kingdom.
Oh,
And it completely transformed my life, David.
wow.
It gave me opportunities.
And ceramics lab? I mean,
Yeah, in the ceramic, yeah, which was like, you got paid for 12 hours and you worked 60.
oh yeah.
But I got to learn everything about ceramics.
Wow. So you're a 18, 19-year-old kid. You got access to.
I had these. I had keys. David.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was, and that led you to how to fire the kills, mix glazes, clean the sinks, the whole 9 yards. So,
oh my God, that's amazing.
It was very transformative.
So, at what point did you wind up at Cal State University? You were at a couple of the campuses, I think.
I think I hung out at the community college for about 6 years.
Okay.
And then I eventually transferred over to Cal State San Bernardino, and I fell into another great art department. And but Bill Warehol out there had glass, so I was now blowing glass, doing ceramics. But it's in the '90s. It's all postmodern stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing new genre classes. Everyone's trying to figure it out, and it was fun and challenging. And and I never completed at the time my undergraduate degree. I just gave up.
Yeah.
And I left and moved in with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And I had a friend, and he started coming by, and we're hanging out. And then one day, I kid you not, David, he showed up with a 12-pack of beer, and we went out to my Volkswagen van. And he sculptured out in the yard. I still have a Volkswagen van too. So.
Yeah. Did you have the camper, or which one did you have?
No, we just had a 72 van then, right?
I had a 66 and a 72. Loved them.
See, once you get one, you get another one, right? And so here we are, David. We're out there and we're drinking beer, and my friend Paul, he starts picking up these sculptures, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" No, I'm putting these in the van for you. You've got a graduate review tomorrow. And I'm like, huh? I'm not. No. No. I made a review for you at Cal State Fullerton. You're going to go over there and get in graduate school. And I'm like, no, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. So at 10 o'clock the next day, I was at Cal State Fullerton, and I walked in and put all my pieces on the table.
Wow.
In come the three instructors. And they asked me some questions, and I talked to them, and I didn't know, and went outside, and my friend Paul asked John Stokesbury, and he goes, well, did he get in? And he looks at me and said, him? And Paul goes, yeah. And he goes, yeah, he's in, no problem. So,
wow.
I got into grad school. I hadn't even finished my BA.
Interesting. Wow.
And the good news is that I finished my BA one semester before I graduated with my MFA.
Oh, I love it. Oh my God. I've never heard that, a variation on the college odyssey that many of us go on. That's amazing.
Oddity.
Yeah, that's the odyssey, right? Speaking of Greek mythology, like we were before the show started, but
right.
That's an incredible story. So you've got some good friends that kept dragging you into situations that you might not have otherwise experienced.
You're absolutely correct, and and you never know who's going to be, Joseph Campbell is going to be the person that you meet that gives you whatever the tool it is you need to go to the next stage.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And so that's kind of like my model of how I want to, work with people as an instructor.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It almost, it's almost redundant for me to ask, who the outstanding early influences were on your life as an artist. You've mentioned several already. Anybody, currently that just gets you fired up, artists, musicians, anybody that you really look to for that guiding light when you need it?
Well, I listen to a lot of music, and me and my wife like to go to a lot of, when we can, concerts.
Yeah, sure.
So music is always an important influence. And I've got a whole thing on my notes on my phone that when I'm digging on music at a thing, it spurs, it's that idea of ekphrasis. this poetry that is put to music, you hear it, and then it makes you start engaging with it. And so usually I end up writing ideas on my phone so I can have something to circle back around to, right? And David, I want to say that growing up, my parents, dad worked for the city, started as trash collector, worked his way up back in the day, retired. He was the head of the water department. Very proud of my parents. And my mom, who was a nurse's aide, my whole life worked ICU, graveyard. And, at the end of the day, I don't think there wasn't any Rotary Club, Lions Club, Kiwanis Club, hot dog sale, food drive, shoe drive that I wasn't dragged to or I wasn't involved with.
Wow.
And so that's really installed in me because my parents met in the service, that idea that, the best thing you can do is help people.
Yeah, so that community service being deeply ingrained.
Yeah, I think so. And it's like, someone said, artists know thyself. And, I know myself, and that's who I want to be. I'm a bit like that 9-year-old kid that wanted to be a firefighter. I guess I still am.
Yeah, right. Oh, just fantastic. Before we get into talking more about vet art, so you're a college teacher. Are you still actually teaching regular college classes, ceramic art classes?
Not right now. I've pretty much given up all that work to run vet art full time. I haven't taught in over a year now.
Okay.
But, I'm in ceramics, 2D design, art history, sculpture, bronze casting. It's all part of what I've been able, to provide for people, But, yeah, no, I'm not, there isn't enough time now.
Well, that's kind of what I thought, but I hadn't actually asked you the last few times we've spoken. I didn't see where you'd have time to do, regular college classroom work. And I mean, COVID aside, and all the virtual stuff. What was the last assignment you had? What was the college? I can't remember. Starts with a C.
So last place I taught at was at Grossmont College.
Grossmont, I'm sorry, C, G.
And they're down in El Cajon.
Need to learn the alphabet. Grossmont College, that's right.
Yeah, I was doing a bronze casting down there. And, we also had a program for the vets to introduce them to it, to get them in the studio. So it's...
At the college, there's certainly a lot of veterans.
Yeah. Grossmont College had something like 2,500 certificated IEPs for veterans.
Really?
At the time, they have a big veteran population.
Our Yuba College here also has a veteran resource center, but last I looked, Tammy Pack, who was involved in the project you did here, is running that now, and but I think it's just a couple hundred. So, well, that's quite a program at Grossmont.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, like me and like a lot of veterans, they come back. There's an educational ladder in California, unique to California, and it starts at public schools, community colleges, and it goes all the way up from there. If you just hold on long enough, you'll progress through it. So
absolutely. Well, and speaking of colleges, that's how we met a few years ago. And our mutual friend Glenn Husted, who's a master ceramic artist, and is also the head of the art department at Yuba College. He called up one day and said, "Hey, my friend Steve Dilley wants to come up from down near San Diego and do a bronze, portrait casting workshop for veterans." And I'm going, okay, I'm in. Bronze, cool. You don't get to do that every day. It was so unique. And needless to say, there was no debate about it. I said, when do we start? And you roll in with your crew a couple of weeks later. We've got veterans in our art gallery, and next thing you know, they're laying back and they're putting stuff all over their face and making the molds to do bronze portraits of each other. It was unbelievable.
And I think that's where the fun is, right? You get people together and you do that, and they're like, "What is this?" And then they're like, "Yeah, that was fun."
That's exactly right. No, it was just phenomenal. I mean, just me watching and taking pictures like a crazy person, but Just
Sure.
a phenomenal experience. And then and particularly the cooperation between the veterans, because you can't just do it alone. You got to help each other do it. So that collaborative element comes out in a just really profound way. And it's kind of intimate. This person is lying back in the chair and you're really at the mercy of your colleagues that are putting this stuff on your face to make this life mask, and just an amazing process. So at the time we had just started doing veterans art projects. We'd done our veterans mural park, as we call it. We had professional mural artists working with veterans to help tell their stories about their time in service.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and we had done our portraits of veterans, kind of pop-up photo studio project, where we were able to photograph about 400 of our local veterans. We think they're about, no one can give me the exact number, but as best we can tell from the various VA organizations and other veteran groups, there's something like 14 or 15,000 veterans at least in our Yuba Sutter community, plus 5,000 active duty military out of Beale Air Force Base. So we've got quite a community here, as you know. Anyhow, that was an exciting project.
Absolutely. And if you look at a report called Charting the Sea of Goodwill, Yuba Sutter is behind San Diego. I think Yuba Sutter has the highest per capita.
Really?
And then that's behind San Diego, even though Los Angeles has the most veterans in its county. But that whatever, veteran to, general population, Yuba Sutter is the highest.
Oh, neat. And that makes perfect sense, because so many, I've heard the story over and over again. A lot of veterans come here from wherever in the U.S. and they retire out of Beale and they like it here, and they stay on, raise their families, and have a good life.
Absolutely.
So that whole bronze project that you brought here, and I should say, you made two trips to create the molds, and then went back to the foundry and then actually brought the finished pieces up. A couple of the veterans, I know Richard Dosher and his son Cameron, actually went down to help participate in the.
They actually grabbed the T-bar and the yoke and poured that bronze themselves.
I've got to do it someday. I've seen the video.
Yeah, they're making it happen.
It's not just unbelievable, that whole process. But that was all under this organization that you founded called Vet Art. Tell us about that, the vision, the inspiration for creating this Vet Art organization to do these kinds of things.
I'm really fortunate, David. And I, back when I was an undergrad, that place that I never got my degree from until I was in graduate school, I had an art history assignment, and it was do an artist report. And there was an artist at USC named Glenn Lukens, and I really liked this blue glaze that Glenn Lukens made. And it might be like this color blue right here. It's a copper blue, it's nice. And I was doing the report, which I got a B+ on it. I was feeling pretty good about myself. And during the investigation of the report, he was talking about World War II vets who he was going to the VA in Long Beach, and this is after post-World War II, and he was finding these vets who were catatonic. No one could reach them because of their experiences of what they had. And he encouraged them and got them to come to the ceramics lab at USC and gave them a space and gave them some clay that's in here. And what he reported is that he wasn't doing much more than that. But these veterans who were catatonic, 6 months or a year later, they would spin off and they would go and get degrees in engineering and become doctors. But it was really transformative for them. And I remember that to being something that, I don't know, you find things when you're out researching stuff. And if you pay attention to that little thing, right?
Yeah.
It becomes something else. And so I want to say that that's the acorn that became this little tree, which is Vet Art. And, that compounded with I always felt that in undergrad, we had an instructor who talked about artistic responsibility. And at the time I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? And it was kind of bit of a long stretch, I mean, like what? You mean you mean I have to like, like only sell things, I need to like climb the financial ladder of how I'm selling things. And I think some people would take that to be and then I thought it was like, well, and I think it was sometime in graduate school when you're out there blowing glass and it's 110 degrees out there and you get the breakthrough, and the breakthrough is, I want to use my superpowers for good. And that became something that I decided that I wanted to do. And then, of course, I like to say that, 9/11 affected me. And living in San Diego, we were looking, and I don't know. I was reading I read the newspaper every day, Dave.
Yeah, sure.
There was always a thing in the local section, and it was some kind of like, just the facts, ma'am. Marine deployed, 14 months, stack of pay, 30-pack of beer, and a motorcycle. And we know that changed. There's just a bad outcome there.
Yeah. Sure.
And of course, back in 2003 and 4, there was a systemic change within the military where they knew that these people were going off to war, and that when they went off to war, they were not like what happened to them. And when they came back, no one knew what was going on. And so the whole discussion about TBI and PTS changed, and that, brought in this whole idea of, moral injury. And those are, when I was a kid, my dad would take me to LA, and him being a medic in the service, and there always seemed to be a Vietnam vet that my dad would go over and talk to and maybe give him a couple of bucks and share a cigarette with him.
Sure.
And my dad would always say, oh, he's a good guy. He's just got some problems. And, and you don't know what those problems are. And so I just want to say that my artistic responsibility kicked in, and from my own, right? Peter Volko said, man, I never would have gotten out of college, but they make me take that stupid ceramics class. But man, once I got my hands in that clay, there's something. I was a painting major. Once I got my hands in that clay, man, it changed everything for me. So I thought that, having access to a language that is visual, that is emotive, and that you can express whatever you want in it, even if you don't even know what you're saying, right? But that you can get lost in that process. I always thought that someone had it made a lot of sense to me, Dave. Yeah. And I thought that other people it would make sense to also.
I love that idea of it as an entirely different language, that you may not even understand, but once you get started, you can't go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
And I don't know. You know what I mean? To me, it was just like, hey, this is how I fought my wars, right?
Yeah.
This is how I had an old karate teacher, and he was from New York, and he would come out and he'd be showing us how to do some moves, and then in between the break, he'd be out there smoking a cigarette and drinking some tea, and we'd go, Sifu, why it is that you smoke cigarettes all day long? You're this great, you're a master.
Yeah.
I said, you people, you do it all for the wrong reason. I learned karate to survive. You do it for exercise. So I like to think, like, as an artist, I do it to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That puts it in perspective right now, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's just one of many, but it's like, that's how I like to think of it, and what it means to me. You know what I mean? This is my toolkit.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like it. You use it well, and you're very generous with it. So when did Vet Art, formally take shape? How long has it been?
We ran our first class in 2009 at Grossmont College.
Okay, at the college. Okay.
At the college. At the same time, I had identified a donor who was a longtime friend, someone I've known from high school. He was a veteran. And we were trying to get classes going through Saddleback College on Camp Pendleton, because they had a Wounded Warrior Battalion. Back then, they had a few hundred people in that battalion. And, long-haired hippie driving around Camp Pendleton with a peace sign on his van, talking to people about doing ceramics class, and everyone was very polite. But they were like, I was not talking to the right people, but I may not have had the right language at that time either, Dave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to have the language. You're right.
And then, we were fortunate enough with some group, Al Ventura, who is lab tech at Grossmont College, and Renee Tuller, who is a veteran specialist. She was like the veteran certifying official at Grossmont College. We approached the associated students
Oh.
at Grossmont College and asked them for some money if we could run this class for the veterans. And everyone else said no. Or they said that's a neat idea, and they went back to staring at whatever they were staring at on their computer screen, right? But the associated students said, yeah, man, we'll put money on that barrelhead, and we ran a class with them, and it's been off and running. So that was in fall of 2009.
And was that what you started with? Basic ceramics, or did you hit the ground running with bronze?
It was ceramics classes. It was really a cool model. We had a area outside of ceramics. It was definitely not a classroom. We had Renee. We met on Fridays. People would come in to do their IEP, work with her, and then she would say, "Hey, you want to talk to me on Fridays? You come over to the ceramics lab." And they're like, "Okay." And and it started off slow, and then we would have 30, 40 people out there.
Wow.
And Renee would say, "Hey, you want me to look over your certified whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay, that's Steve. You go over there and make a bowl with him. When you get done with that, you come and talk to me." Right? Well, those people, it was kind of like force feeding them at the time. But at the time, they would come back again and again, right? And then I remember we had one vet that came in there, Dave, and he's, I don't know what he did, but he had an Arabic tattooed right here. It said Night Wolf. And I said, "What's that on your hand?" He said, "Oh, that's Night Wolf." Because those insurgents, we were out finding them in the middle of the night, and he was definitely a very guarded individual, which is understandable.
Yeah.
And, but he was there, and the first couple times he just I always remember him. He was over there on the side, and about the third time he was there, he comes over. He goes, "Hey, you want to show me how to do that?" And when that happened, it's like, okay, I got him. You know what I mean? You got him. So that was the first class. It led to other colleges. Remember we had a generous private donor who was throwing down stuff to make this stuff happen.
Yeah.
And before you know it, we're at 2 or 3 colleges.
Wow.
We were getting some traction here, not so much traction there. Some colleges supported it. Other ones said, "Well, this is a great idea, but I can't get behind it. It's all independent."
Sure.
And then we had an opportunity from a community friend who said, "Hey, there's a bronze foundry. Why don't you guys, so went over there and talked to them. Started running classes in 2014 in bronze, and it's really taken off. And we do basically documentary. We teach that process of documentary, skin contact, alginate face casting, documenting people as real people, and then teach them the process through that. And at the end of the day, they get a really nice self-portrait out of it. You know what I mean?
Unbelievable. We've still got a couple of them in the office. And again, when I first heard this idea, I've certainly been to plenty of museum exhibits and read about the lost wax casting process. And it just, or God forbid you go out and look at the big bronze statuary that's so controversial now in some areas around the country. And that whole process just seems so elusive. And to see it played out in even a smaller form with the portraits was just mind-boggling. And then to see the video of the foundry itself and you making it real, it's just something so unusual and extra special. So,
well, I think at the end of the day, Dave, and this is like something I figured out, but I don't want to infantilize these people, veterans, their experiences. And that when they come in to the bronze casting lab, right, they respect the process because of the inherent danger associated with it. But also, once you get them in the door, man, them hooks are set. They're not going anywhere, man. We got them. And, and they just get, talk about process, talk about being in the moment. nothing focuses your mind than a crucible full of 200 pounds of molten bronze.
Yeah, hello.
And
Let's look at a couple of pictures of these incredible pieces. We've got some examples queued up just to get a sense of what Steve's talking about with the portraits and some of the hand molds. And so, Alex, if you could show us a couple of those images that we've got queued up. Alex, there he is.
There he is. There.
Hey, look at that logo. Very, very sharp.
Yeah. It's been a good logo.
That's we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll back for that.
But yeah, here's some examples.
Yeah, the portrait on the left is Earl, Vietnam era guy. I remember doing him. When we first started doing these, it was, like many times you're like, well, how do you do this? And it's like, well, sit in the chair. We'll figure it out. And, but I have saved that, I have casted a few hundred people. And if we go to a couple other images, you can see that is like these are much like the portrait like you would see in a death mask, right? But then as we got better, we got more of the individual. Yeah.
Can we go back to that previous image? I just wanted to say something. The one after that in the YubaSutterArts gallery. Yeah, this was a pretty unique situation because, as you can see on the pedestals, these are some of the bronzes that our local veterans did. And we were able to have an exhibit with those bronzes in addition to our portraits of veterans. This is just a sample of some of the 400 portraits of veterans that we did as part of a separate grant project where we did these high quality black and white portraits of a lot of our local veterans or veteran couples and supersized them to 20 by 30. And then we had in the foreground the bronzes. So it just made a spectacular gallery exhibit for us. So thanks.
Well, I do think that this documentation really kind of, these are people, you know what I mean? And it just makes them, they're just, songs, stories, hopes, just like everyone else there. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a celebration, I think. You don't have to be an egomaniac to appreciate seeing your portrait up on the wall. I mean, this is about celebrating those, individuals and honoring their service and their lives. And I know you've spent a lot of your life doing that, and we do our best with our occasional veterans projects. So
sure.
Beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Let's look at another collage of some of the bronzes. Yeah, here's some more.
Yeah, so we've got some the ones at the bottom right, see no evil, hear no evil, do no evil, Anthony LeBeau. Upper right there is Nick, and he was one of the people that came through and very traumatic experiences from his he was in the Brownwater Navy in Vietnam. These are all just great documentations of these people, and more importantly, their stories.
Their stories, yeah. To the extent they're willing to share their stories, about that.
And there's 100 different stories here, and they're all. I'm always like the upper left here, and and the idea of women make up a large portion of our armed forces. And, is that 30%, 40%? People don't realize that, even though, men identify as veterans more than women do. And I always find that to be interesting, and, we've also documented veterans who have found permanent solutions to their problems. And that's always a tragedy. And at the end of the day, I think that if we are putting people in harm's way and we get them back here safely, and then something negative happens to them, I think that's a bad situation. And I'm trying to do everything I can with, how to help that.
Speaking of women in the military, the new squadron commander at Beale Air Force Base is Colonel Heather Cox, a former U-2 pilot. So it's like doesn't get any better than that. So
Right.
There are several high-ranking women, another Colonel Juby, and others. So yes,
Yeah, but
great.
I would say that we've completed probably 200 portraits in the last 10 years, 6 years.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
There's Richard Dosher, bottom center. He and his son were part of this project when you came to YubaSutter, and then went down to the foundry. So
absolutely.
So that's great. So currently, are all the classes being held at the Vet Art facility, or do you still have satellite programs? Well, I mean, again, what's normal anymore, or do you still teach classes at the different colleges?
So in 2016, we went out to the NCCA conference in Portland, and when that happened, we were doing. We had some money from the donor, and we decided to fund programs outside. It was a way to make a larger impact. And so that year we funded $56,000 to 7 different projects nationwide. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of those projects that we funded still have arts project programs. We're talking community colleges here, have arts programs marketed to veterans to this day. So that's 4 years later.
Wow.
And I mean, that is in a lot of ways our greatest a great accomplishment, because it's like impacted a greater reach of people, right? It's just become bigger. And I love that,
That's incredible. Yeah, the idea of marketing specific classes to the veteran community on campus, and so are they exclusive to veterans, or?
A lot of times, as an introductory move, on these college campuses, they are marketed specifically to veterans.
Okay.
But then, spouses come in, or adult children come in with them.
Family members, yeah.
Well, and not to forget caregivers are an important component of the veteran, experience.
Sure.
And so, we like to, now we also have classes that are specific to veterans here in our locations, in Vista and Fallbrook. But we also have other classes that are open to the community, because I think that, on the clinical side here, the clinicians are brilliant. They're doing amazing work, and they're finding the how and the why. But the bridge to the community, that's where Vet Art lives. And we want to be part of that community experience, so that when someone comes to us, right, they don't get that same experience they got at the VA. It's like, hey, man, 9 out of 10. Everyone's like, don't go to the VA, man. We don't create that when they come to our facility. No. When they get to that door, we want to make sure that they are ready and willing, and we are there to meet them there. You know what I mean? So that's important.
Oh, so important. Anyone interested in learning more about Vet Art certainly should look at your website with videos and gallery shots of a lot of the work you've done, but it's just vetart.org.
Thank you, Dave.
Really a tremendous website. So take a look at vetart.org and learn more about that important work that Steve and his team are doing. Speaking of your team, I just recently, through correspondence, have met, is it Jill, who's your art therapist?
Yes, Jill Brennigan, art therapist. Jill is, we met Jill at one of the Creative Forces convenings a number of years ago down in San Diego here. And she is tenacious, hardworking, and she's in there fighting, and she does mural work with the vets.
Wow.
And offering processing opportunities. And, and she's just a real, dedicated member of the team who's really, she brought Second Lady Karen Pence to come visit Vet Art's facility last year in June.
Wow.
Here I am standing in front of Vet Art, and here come the 3 CHP cars and the 4 Suburbans, and and everything else, and here comes Pence, and and I have to say that Second Lady Karen Pence was a wonderful visitor to have.
Oh,
And at the end of the day, it made me realize that people in politics are people just like you and me, and that they have. It just demystifies the whole thing.
doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great visit. On Veterans Day last year, she did a tweet. She's wearing the Vet Art shirt. She's talking about what's happening. She's been a great advocate for intervention, transitioning veterans to help them find community.
Well, that's great to hear. Tell me more about Jill's work, though. I'm curious. I'm told that a number of years ago, before I got so deeply involved at YubaSutterArts&Culture, that we had an art therapist here in town, but I didn't know that person, and they're long gone. But there is a certification process to become an art therapist, and what all does Jill do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, registered art therapists, right? They have clinical classes that they do, and Jill attended Pratt Institute for Art, which has a certified art therapist program, in Brooklyn, New York. There, and so she's here. She's holding space. She has classes, and male, female, young, old veterans come in. Jill does. We have MST, women, military sexual trauma, come in, and they have an opportunity to address that in a compassionate, caring environment. And also, how do you make art in that space? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's also involved with our planning. Talk to her weekly. Ever since March, we're slowly opening up San Diego. We're looking to start our first classes next week.
Oh, good.
We've had open studio, COVID. We also have, the good thing that's come out of COVID, David, is that we have developed an incredible volunteer network of people who we put the word out, and we had a meeting and 16 people showed up, and they're like, how can I help? What do you want me to do? And I'm like, well, this is, and we're just talking and going through all that space. So now we have like 60 hours a week that are staffed by volunteers just so somebody can come in.
Oh, you're obviously doing the right thing.
We couldn't do it before. We couldn't do it before with funding, but now we can do it with our volunteer network, and it's just amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It is.
To hear. Well, yeah, having Jill there on staff, it's just, that's got to be a great blessing working, with different the veterans and providing those additional insights. And we we do a lot in addition to veterans with at-risk youth here, and I've often longed for that kind of professional, art therapy kind of input.
Sure.
And at some point, I think we'll find that person to come in and help us out. Plus the work we do with the veterans, and just to offer that additional leg up, like what you've done. It's great.
I was just listening to a webinar last week, and it was psychologist Heidi Kraft, and she was saying, and she's well known, works with TBI, PTSD, and she was saying how in this day and age, if we as providers, if we can do nothing more than just be kind, that is our first, and that is the first thing that we can do. And I always go back to those words, and I share them with the team. Hey, man, all we have to do is hold space and be kind.
That's way too simple, Steve. Wait a minute. Can we complicate that a little bit? No, I love it. I'm with you. Totally with you. Hey, let's talk about this neat new project you and I have been talking about these last few weeks, the Vet Art pop-up art cafes. Where did this come from? What's it about?
We're just really fortunate that we saw an RFP from the Mental Health Services Oversight Accountability Commission, Now remember, Dave, we don't work there, so we don't have to answer the phone and say that every day.
Right. I was going to say you've got it down. I'm
Yeah.
still working on it, but
So I like to refer to it as Masak, right? Masak, and Masak is, so here's we have a flyer here. So the pop-up art cafe is a continuation of a contract that Vet Art, Resounding Joy, So Say We All, Combat Arts, 211 San Diego, and San Diego Veterans Coalition completed in 2019 for the NEA. We did 6 pop-up arts cafes in the community here in San Diego, and they were very successful. We had hundreds of veterans participate, show up, and so we were fortunate enough to find this RFP from Masak back in January. We completed an RFP and turned it in that had over 220 pages. We worked closely with a paralegal, because these contracts are not written by people like you and me, Dave. They're written by lawyers, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Having a paralegal to help you do that is important. And so the model we're looking at is that we go to a community, we identify a space. Part of the marketing we're doing is to interact with the veteran population and invite them. And then we have veterans who are artists and veterans who are and those veteran artists are invited, juried in to exhibit their artwork. They're reimbursed for that. And then we also have veteran and veteran service organizations. So we have an MC, we have Resounding Joy is going to be doing music. We have So Say We All doing spoken word. We have Ivan Sam, who is our Native American cultural ambassador, working with Vet Art, and he'll be doing a beaded medicine bag. We're going to have glass blowers, potter's wheels, painting, and it's really a celebration of the arts, but how arts can be made to not only just community, but that a healthy arts practice will bring about wellness through being present in your daily activities.
So the cafe, the setting is outdoor, indoor, with tables, literally pop up, and artists are there, veteran artists with all these things going on. So veterans attending can get a little experience with all of these different art forms in one space in a few hours. And exposure. And we have veterans who are making art, and they'll be on hand for that hand-to-hand connection. Like, hey, this is what I do, because someone's going to come and they're going to identify with my ceramic art, and someone's going to come and they're going to identify with the next person's, painting, right? Yeah. And we want to make sure that we have a wide range of those people. So, we're looking at 10 to 12 exhibiting artists that are, it's the art cafe or the art festival model, but we reversed it, right? Yeah. Instead of paying to participate, we're paying them to come and participate. No, I love it.
Because they're being reinforced for all the hard work they do.
Any way we can get you up here for one of those?
Well, we just might have one. It looks like we got one on November 7th, Dave.
Hey.
Friday night, I'm bringing some fish. So
good. Loaded. I was going to say, is there any food involved with these pop-up cafes? I know you've got the absolute ultimate hookup on fresh seafood. I see it on your Facebook page all the time. It's like unbelievable.
I like to eat, Dave, and more importantly, so part of this RFP we're doing, we have to engage with the veteran population. So when people come, we have a certain app on our phone so they can text cafe to our number, and then we have their information. And then once they do that, they get a gold star, and the gold star will get them a free lunch at the cafe.
Hey, I'll bring my 40-inch paella pan.
Well, let's go. That sounds great.
That's the place for it. The party paella pan. So
if you're up for it,
I'm up. I need to have something to do. Come on.
All right.
I can't wait. Yeah, we'll be promoting the heck out of that as it takes shape, and we're just so excited. And that was a loaded question. Steve and I have been talking about this for some time now, and asked if we'd be willing, and we said, okay, when do we start? And we're a tough sell, but he twisted our arm, and no, we're excited.
With all these local level events, which will be happening all over the state over the next 3 years, that makes 15 total of those pop-up cafes at the local level. We'll also be having one every year at the California State Capitol.
Wow.
And the exciting thing about it is, the first year we're going to collaborate with Californians for the Arts, which is an exciting opportunity to show how arts are second responders and how we can advocate with our legislature and having veterans speak about their experiences on the Capitol steps, right? To me, that's very exciting.
Are you going to have tables and artists there demonstrating, or
pop-up arts cafe?
The whole thing, okay.
The whole 9 yards, right?
Wow.
And year 2 in 2022, National Council of Education Ceramic Arts is coming to Sacramento. And so we'll also be involved with that. And we're in discussions with our good friend Glenn Houston and his Naborigama up in Grass Valley, Penn Valley, actually.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing some firings in that conjunction with that. And then we still have the third year event, but we haven't gotten to planning about that yet. We have a veteran planning committee we're working with, and I'm just very excited. And at the end of the day, we have a significant war chest in Cudgel. So in that first year, we have $100,000 to transport veterans to the statewide event.
Wow, that's fantastic.
We've got we're going to be bringing a couple hundred veterans for the one-day event, which is very exciting.
In and of itself will be a very powerful statement.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Looking forward to it. At the end of the I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Dave, I'm really interested in this whole idea of how do we interact, the intersection of arts as a means to help people. And, where that meets up is kind of like the rubber on the road. And I think this is just one way of how we can engage people in community and keep people connected, talking to each other, caring about each other.
That's right. I know in the art world or the nonprofit world, where with our 501c3s that we're very protective of, we can't do lobbying, but what can we do? Advocacy. So this is the ultimate advocacy. And I think putting on that kind of a demonstration of what this program is all about will be pretty profound. You occasionally touch on political issues of the day on social media, but I like this quote from your Facebook page, if I may, and you'll help me with the pronunciation of the gentleman who said it. I think art is the only political power, the only revolutionary power, the only evolutionary power, the only power to free humankind from all repressions. By Joseph Beuys. Joseph Beuys. I love that. I love that quotation.
As undergraduate, I got introduced to the work of Joseph Beuys, and if you don't know, he was a World War II Stuka pilot. He was shot down in the Crimea. He was found by the Tartars, and it's kind of like he created his own Genesis story of how he survived that ordeal. And he spoke and wrote extensively upon the subject of fascism and how fascism is a form of hardening of your heart. And that he equated the work of the bee, the honeybee, because it goes out to these flowers and it eats pollen and it transforms it into honey.
It's like alchemy.
A form of alchemy, absolutely. And how that is that if our hearts are open and warm, that we can fight that. It's all about the other, Dave, right? And we're all human, and sometimes we need to be reminded that of that. You know what I mean? And as artists, that we're doing the good. We're doing the good work.
No question. No question. Can you believe how quickly the hour goes? It always fascinates me. Takes a minute to kind of get revved up, and then all of a sudden, boom, 5 minutes to go. It's time for our last 10 questions. Anything else you want to say on vet art or pop-up cafes? I don't want to move on to the grand finale here. If we've left something unspoken, let's.
No, I think we've done a good job covering a lot of the important topics of what I'm interested in, and I'm thankful that you're interested in this, as an option also.
Hey, you had me at bronze. All right. Well, this is in honor of our good friend James Lipton, who ran the Actors Studio in New York for many years, and he had a lot of cool, mostly actors, of course, were his guests. But we like to ask our artist guests his final 10 questions, because you never know what people are going to say. It's just kind of a nice way to go out, I think. So, what's your favorite word?
Love.
What's your least favorite word?
No.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Curiosity.
You've done this before, I think.
No.
What turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Not being interested or not being, curious. When people stop being curious, I'm always kind of like,
yeah. How can you not be interested in this, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Fascinated by everything.
I know. All right, a little edgy here. What is your favorite curse word?
Oh man, I have to say shit. That was my mom's favorite.
See, multi-generational curse word. I like it.
Yeah.
What sound or noise do you love?
Oh man,
I feel like we hear the ocean in the background. Are you near the beach?
Well, that might be a prompt there, but I have to say the white noise of the waves on the beach is one of the best ever, man. It's like I'm home.
Indeed. Didn't we all come out of the water at some point? We slithered and yeah.
Some slithered longer than others.
Good word. When I get asked this, I'm going to say slither is my favorite word. What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, I don't know. It'd have to be traffic, Dave.
I'm with you there. As a big city boy from LA and Washington, D.C., this country living up here in YubaSutter is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Dave, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter. And in a lot of ways, I'm still a firefighter. So I still get to be the 9-year-old kid. But instead of putting them out, I light them.
Good analogy. Good analogy. What profession would you not like to pursue?
I don't know. I think people that are in law enforcement, man, they no matter, there's just situations where there's no right.
No.
It's just a hard situation and hard life, man. And I've known a few cops, and they're just, it's just like, man, that's tough work.
Those life and death decisions, it's so easy for us to, armchair quarterback that stuff.
Sure, every time.
I hear you. And last but not least, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Ding!
I hear you. Steve Dilley, thank you so much. It's just been such a delight and the hour well spent. And we still look forward to seeing you again in November, and we'll just welcome the community in for a fantastic Veterans Pop-Up Art Cafe experience. I know it'll be spectacular.
It's going to be fun, Dave. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. Stay safe, be well, and I want to thank our technical support team, producer Abby Cecina, technical director Alex Cecina, and Shante Arroyo. Until next time, that's it for Artist Alchemy. Don't forget to tune in next week when our guest host, Alex Cecina, will be interviewing Matt Demerit. He's the newly appointed theater professor at Marysville Charter Academy for the Arts. Thanks again, and we'll see you then.
Take care.